Ah, that's better. Some color, right? Everybody needs some color in their life. Even Visio diagrams. Who wants to look at a black and white Visio diagram? Especially if you need to differentiate between different things that are going on that you're trying to communicate to whoever is looking at this diagram, yourself, your colleagues, your boss, whoever you are sharing this information with. You need to be able to clearly differentiate what the lines mean, what the shapes mean. All right, and so we're going to get into some of the ways in which you can do just that. This diagram looks familiar, doesn't it? Well, if it doesn't, please look for the previous Visio video that I made on some basic drawing techniques where I took you through exactly how to draw something that you and your colleagues would be working on a whiteboard with. You'd be drawing something, and at the conclusion of your meeting, if you drew these things and you were talking about how how these things relate, whether it's a network diagram or a business process flow, and upon conclusion of your meeting, you wanted to capture this. You didn't want to just take a picture and share the picture with everybody. You wanted to be able to alter that, especially if it was an elaborate depiction of something that you spent an hour or 2 hours in a meeting talking about. You can quickly draw this in Visio. Look at my previous video on how to take something from a whiteboard or something that you sketched and put it into something that looks like this. The reason you may want it in the diagram is you may want to add text to it. You may want to type some numbers, some letters, some text inside of there, and things like that. And so you may want to be able to alter that information as time goes on. You don't want to have to keep redrawing it on a whiteboard, rewriting all of the information. You want to have it in an electronic form for obvious reasons, to be able to do additions, changes, and things like that. So let's get into what we can do to add some color to these things. So some basic line colors. Let's talk about just coloring these lines on here. Look at this. Here's your line tool right here at the top. When you click this pop out, you get a selection of some default colors. Okay, starting at the top, they're light, and as they go down, they get darker. I tell you what, I really like the way Visio allows you to float your mouse over these colors and watch the cloud outline change as I float over each color. So I don't have to sit there and make the selection and then look at it and make another selection. I'm not clicking anything, folks. I'm simply floating the mouse over these different colors. Okay? So you can quickly see what you like. All right, whatever it is that you're needing for this shape, pick that color. All right, so let's pick red. Now, whatever color you pick, look at that. That is the auto default color from this point forward. So if I go here and I want this circle to be red, now I just click that red line. Go to this one, click that red button up there. Okay. Now, if you want, same thing with the lines. If you want to color the lines, same thing. Here, I'll drill in so you can get a better look at that. And so this is the auto-selected color now. Whichever is the last color you have selected, so if I'll just go here and pick green. Now, when I pick this, again, the next auto color is whichever one I most recently selected. All right? Let me show you how to set colors on multiple objects. You might recall from a previous video where you can just drag and highlight multiple things. If you now click the color, now you have colored everything you had selected. If you hold the Control key down on your keyboard and then with the left mouse click, that object holding the Control key down, click the next object, holding the control key down, click the next object. Again, I'm using the left mouse button. Now, when I go and select my next color, all those objects that I had selected will in fact be changed. Okay, so just a few different ways there to select items. All right, coloring shapes. Pick a shape. Now this is what's known as fill. You're filling up the shape. It's got a bucket there, kind of like you're dumping a bucket inside the shape. So same thing, you've got colors here. You can float over them. As you float over them, you can very nicely see the color of your shape. Fill color changing. Not the line color, but the fill color. All right? So we will fill it with, let's fill it with this blue color. And again, the most recently selected color is the one that is now the default auto color. So if I wanted to fill these two, I could either highlight them like that. That's a left mouse click and drag. When you get to where you want to be, you let up on the mouse button, click the fill, and there you go. You've filled your shapes. You know, as you can see, when I selected those, it did highlight everything in scope. So it highlighted this line, but that's a line, that's not a shape. So when you click fill, it's only filling objects, it's not changing lines. That would be a line color change that we previously discussed. Okay, now a quick reminder, some of these lines you can barely see them. You literally have to drill in really close to see them. And so to make the diagram nicer, you'll probably want to change your thickness. Thickness, you can right click on the line. You can go to Format, then Line. And then this pops up. You're looking for weight. So the heaviness or the weightiness of the line. Look at all these different thicknesses you have. Quarter point, half point, 3/4 point, 1 point, 1.5 point, all the way down to 6 point. If I select 6 point, then say apply. Oh, I don't like that. Well, then don't say okay, because you still have your box here. If I would have said okay, look at that, the box goes away. And you don't get a chance to change to the next thickness. So if you say apply, you get to keep your box up. Okay, so let's go to, let's say 3 point. Say apply. There you go. That's a little bit nicer. And so let's stay with that. Again, if you wanted to do all the lines, I'm holding the control key down on my keyboard and I'm selecting with my left mouse button. Now, another way to do this, instead of right-clicking on these objects like I just previously showed you, click on the drop-down here for line, and look how nice. You have weight here. Now, I'll tell you what's nice with this. Similar to color, you can float over these lines, and look how nice. You can dynamically see, do I like the thickness of these lines or not? Okay, so very nice here. I think we previously selected 3, so we'll go with that. We'll go with 3. Okay, now that's how to color lines and shapes. Let me show you something. If you didn't like the color of the red outline and you just quickly wanted to get rid of it, you could go in here and change the color of the line to be the same color as the circle. But I'm just going to show you something different. If you could remove the line completely. It's kind of funny, but you think about it, there's a discrete line definition around that object. And so another way of getting rid of that red outline, if you didn't want that there, would be to remove that line. So here's how you would do it. With this object highlighted, go to line and say no line. Look at that, no line. So as you can see in the back, the line is gone when I float over no line. You see that? All right, there we go. Now remember, holding down the control key and tapping the letter Z on your keyboard will undo anything you have done. Holding down the Control key and tapping the letter Y will redo anything you've done. Okay, so it's a matter of going backwards and forwards. Control Z is backwards, Control Y is forwards. So let's put that back. I'm going to show you again about the line. If you wanted to change the weight of that circular object, you could. We'll go with 3-point, kind of the standard thickness we've been going with. And so that is filling in colors in shapes. Of course, you could do the same thing with this shape, this cloud up here. Go to Fill, float over different colors, and there you go. All right, we'll fill it in like that. And the next thing I'd like to show you is the Freeform tool. So on this drawing object, you can hit the drop down. Usually by default it's a rectangle, as you can see there. Click the drop down, you have ellipse, line, that's a straight line, freeform, arc, and a pencil. So I want to show you this freeform here. Click that. Your cursor now becomes a freeform drawing tool. It's shown as freeform with that little squiggly line you see there. So what you can do is you can draw all kinds of flexible objects. Look at that. And it's green because the default color selected is green. And so these are very nice. You can, all these different points of manipulation are here. And Visio does a really good job of kind of making them smoothed out. It kind of smooths out the curves as you manipulate these. If there are too many points of manipulation, causing the line to be too changing, I mean there's too many changes and you don't like that, the one that's selected is pink. You see that there? And so whichever one you don't want to be there anymore, like say you don't want this bend to be here, and say for instance you're having trouble getting it out of the shape, just hit the delete key on your keyboard and look at that. It's gone, and the line does a geometric kind of a nice curve. So like I said, Visio does a good job of smoothing things out, but if there's too many points of manipulation, you might want to delete one. Now, I crossed the line with the beginning and the ending point. I crossed it, but when you go to fill the object, let's click this color up here, you'll see it's not filling. It's because the beginning point and the ending point need to be touching. They need to have connected. So let's hit the delete key on our keyboard, and we're going to delete that whole object. And we're going to try this again. With the Freeform tool, let's draw our object and try your best to bring that ending line right back to the beginning. And look at that. The fact that it's solid white and you no longer see a grid behind it means that you were successful in joining that together. Another obvious way to tell will be when you go to fill it with a color. Click that fill and voila. Look at that. It is a shape. It's a custom shape that you have created. You can then manipulate it. Now the beginning and the ending point were together in a very sharp corner. If you don't like that, you can work it out by smoothing it out like that. I do want to show you something. Usually there's an angle tool bending, they call it bend shape. So it's a little line that comes out and it's a point of manipulation. It's not part of the object itself, but it's a lever, so to speak, to bend that point of where it started and where it stopped. In this case, we can see that there's two of them. And if you click on that, you can tweak where that curves in and out. So if you tweak it back, you can make that less of an abrupt corner there. So you see that? So it's more, see, these are smooth curves, but this kind of shows like there's a bend in the curve. Well, you can manipulate it that way, or let's put it back the way it was, or you can manipulate it by that one junction point and smooth it out that way. So there's a couple different ways to do it there. All right? So that is the freeform shape. Okay, now I would also like to show you a, by the way, I want to remind you that to come out or to drill in, very easy. You hold the Control Shift key down on your keyboard, hold both of those down together. See my two fingers there? Hold Control and Shift. With those down, you're hitting your left mouse key. I think I showed that in a previous video. The left mouse key drills in, the right mouse key comes out. And again, you're holding the Control and Shift keys down on your keyboard while you're doing that. It's really nice. I like to be really agile and quick when I'm manipulating diagrams, and to center up the diagram and then come over here at the bottom and to slide this thing back and forth, and it's just really kind of annoying. And I tell you what, when you are drilling in and out and you're not using the mouse trick like I just showed you with the keyboard and the mouse, you're not able to drill in and out of the specific spot that you're interested in. So I'll show that one more time. Wherever the mouse is, like this red circle, for instance, if you put the cursor right there, the mouse cursor, then you can drill in and come out on that, all right? Okay, I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to move this object out of the way. And what if we wanted to signify the center of the network here? I'm going to call this a network diagram. I think I said in my previous videos, I'm a network engineer by trade, by practice. And a lot of what I do in Visio has a lot to do with networks, has everything to do with networks pretty much. Actually, not everything. I use Visio for a lot of different stuff, but primarily networks. And so the center there is a network diagram. And so I'm going to show you that if I wanted to signify a portion of the diagram, I could take this rectangle, drawing tool, I could do this, and size it a little bit, make it centered. Now, it's covering up my diagram right now. If I wanted it to go to the back of the diagram, up here, you highlight it and go up here to send backward, send to the back. So there it is, I've sent it to the back. It's very nice, right? And so if I want to highlight that, I do a fill. So I can highlight it with a certain color, and then I can use the text tool, text right here, and I can label it SP Core Network, Service Provider Core Network. I can label it. And so that's another way of adding color to your diagram. Okay, if you don't like the sharpness of these corners, go to your line tool, go to line options, then you will see curves round the corners, a lot of different degrees or extremes of rounding. Let's just pick that one. Say apply. If you don't like it, pick the next one, say apply. Again, you won't want to say okay, because if you don't like it, then you got to go back in and pull this dialog box, this selection box up again. So just say apply, and if you like what you see, then okay. If you don't like the dark green line, we can get rid of the line by saying no line. And there you go. You've created some emphasis on what is the Service Provider Core Network. And you could label this as Customer 1, Customer 2. Oops. All right, if you want to add color to your text, since this is a shade of green in the middle, let's see what see the degrees of green here. We went with the lightest one for the fill color, so we can maybe go with a darker one for the text. So select your text. Here's the coloring for the text over here. Click the drop down. If you want to stay with the same degrees of green, then you can do that. It's right here in the column for that green. So you can stay with that. You can give customer 1 a certain color. We'll go with the same green of the circle. Customer 2, we can make that one maybe orange, and then outline the circle in the same color, orange, or actually that's a brown color. Something else that comes in very handy when you're doing diagrams is legends. I've shown you a lot about coloring lines, but let's bring some standard to these line colors. We've got a few that are black, and let's make a few that are red. Now, if you didn't want to put labels on these lines to say what they are, the black and the red, take a line, hit the Control key on your keyboard, left mouse click, and drag it over. Drop it with the mouse click, in other words, let up on the mouse click, then let up on the Control key on the keyboard. That's a quick way of copying something. It carries over. It's really nice to do it like that because it carries over all the same properties, the same thickness, the same color, and anything that goes with it. You've copied that object. Instead of redrawing another one and then trying to add all those attributes to it to make it the same, just copy that object over. And then we'll take the other one, the black line, snap it onto the grid. And if you want to make sure they're the same size, just drill into it real quick, come out, and try to set them on a line. I'm going to show you some ways of distributing shapes and aligning shapes later, but for now this is one way to do it. Okay, and so we have 2 lines that are the same size, and use your keyboard to go up or down. It's kind of nice to keep them aligned by using your keypad. And then we can say, okay, this one is 10 gigabit per second. I previously grouped that. I need to ungroup it. And we can say this is 40 gigabit per second. All right. Now you can do it like that. I added a carriage return. I added a enter on the manipulation of that before. Now, if you don't want it sitting over the line like that, you can hit the enter key a couple times. But look what it does. It's got this white background. Right click on that text, highlight it, double click on it, right click on it, go to paragraph, go to text block, text background, solid color white, say none, apply, and there you go, it's gone. Same thing here. Now if you right click on it, if you right click on it, go to paragraph, text block, say none. Now, if you haven't hit the enter key, it's sitting right on top of it, but you have to hit the enter key a couple times for it to go up or down. Now, that's all part of that object, part of that line. See that? It's part of it. Hit Control Z to get it back where it was. If you want it above or below, it's just a matter of manipulation. Hit the enter key. It's a matter of adding lines in the proper place to get it above or below the line. All right? Now, another thing I would like to show you is changing the colors to be exactly what you want them to be. So let's say you don't like this orange color here on the cloud. Go to the fill, go to more colors. You see this? Go to more colors right here. Now look at all these colors you have. The one that's selected is shown here. All right. Now, if you take this cursor, now the new color, again, the one that's selected is actually, I should be more specific, says that it's the current color and it's the one that's down here on the bottom. As you are moving this cursor through the rainbow of options you have here, you can get closer to the color that you want. Now you can see this vertical bar is a way of fine-tuning your color. So let's get it over here. Then you can take this cursor here and go up and down and fine-tune within that color spectrum that you've previously selected inside of this window. All right? Now, using codes, there are color codes out there on the internet. You can look them up in Google that have numbers associated with them. You can plug those numbers in there and change it just based on those color numbers. Like you can go up and get more red in there. You can just hold it down. You don't even have to click. It removes some of the greenish attribute in that color. See how it's slightly tweaking it? You can add or subtract some blue. Look at that. Oh, so it's got to be between 0 and 255. So again, you just need to look up what those codes mean. And so if this is the color that you want, that you desire to fill this cloud with, when you say OK, look at that. The cloud is now the color that you wanted. It is also the default color now, as usual. And when you hit the drop down, it's now one of your recent colors. You see that there? So I'll also tell you that creating a legend is also a nice way of getting access, quick access to some of the colors you might use on a more regular basis. All right. So you could do that, type in there, internet. If you wanted to change the size of the font, here's how you change the size of the font. See how the cloud font is changing. You can be really big with your font. You know, you go down and it stops at 60 point. Go in here and type 70 point and hit enter. So even though it's not an option by default, you can put it in there yourself. Just freeform it in there if you really wanted to have that big font. Okay? So that's a nice way of creating a legend. Also, when you're drawing, if you're trying to center the diagram up, don't waste your time. Click View, Fit to Window, and it will center it up for you. Save, and that is about all I wanted to show you with colors. I want to mention something though. These colors are all fine and dandy, and they're great for an electronic file, for emailing it, for sharing it with others. But when you go to print that hard copy out of a printer, it remains to be seen what those colors are going to look like coming out of that printer. So if you're in doubt, do this. You can real quickly, and here's how to create another diagram in this file. Hit this tab down here. Okay, if you wanted to have it, if you just wanted to try something out real quick, go to your shape block, create a couple squares. You might know where I'm going with this already. If you want to know if the colors are going to look, if you want to know what they're going to look like on your printer, select some of those colors that you might be using on a more regular basis, like this. Okay, select some of those colors and print that out. Send that to the printer. See what they look like. If they're not different enough, or they're not giving you, what you're going after, the differentiation of objects that you need to document or communicate what it is that you're doing, then you're going to need to tweak those colors a little bit. Okay. All right. That's all I wanted to show you with Visio colors at this point. I hope you're liking what you're getting from this channel. If so, subscribe, comment, let me know how you like this. If there's anything else you'd like to see, go ahead and let me know. Share it with somebody that you think might be able to benefit from this, somebody else that you know that does Visio diagrams. It took me a long time to learn about how to do a lot of these things, and I'd really like to help get others going a lot faster in their Visio progression. All right, so until next time, thank you.